The message was never meant to be seen by anyone else, and certainly not by her. It was typed with shaking thumbs in the dim light of a kitchen that smelled of cold coffee and exhaustion, sent in a moment when loneliness pressed so hard on his chest that he forgot the world for a second. When David realized what he had done, his heart dropped so violently it felt like the floor vanished beneath him, because the words "I miss you" were sitting there, delivered, glowing on the screen, sent to his boss. Before this story pulls you deeper, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and quiet miracles that happen when we least expect them, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Your support truly matters more than you know. David Carter had not always been this tired, this hollowed-out version of himself. Once, he had been a man who laughed easily, who dreamed loudly, who believed life unfolded the way you planned it if you worked hard enough. That belief shattered the day his wife Emily died suddenly from a brain aneurysm, leaving behind a stunned husband and a 3-year-old daughter named Lily who still reached for her mother at night. Grief didn't arrive like a storm for David. It came like fog, creeping into every corner of his life, settling into his bones. He learned how to braid hair by watching late-night videos, how to cook simple meals between deadlines, and how to cry silently so Lily wouldn't hear it through the thin walls of their small apartment. Every morning began before sunrise. David packed Lily's lunch with careful notes drawn in colored markers, tied her shoelaces with hands that were always rushing, and dropped her at daycare before racing to work. His job as a project manager at a mid-sized architecture firm was the only thing keeping their lives afloat. The firm was run by Rachel Morgan, a woman known for her professionalism, her sharp eye for detail, and her emotional distance. To David, she was simply his boss, the person whose approval kept food on the table and the lights on at home. He admired her competence but never imagined her as part of his personal world. Days blurred together in a cycle of meetings, deadlines, and silent dinners after Lily fell asleep. The apartment echoed with absence. David often sat at the kitchen table long after midnight, scrolling through old photos on his phone, pausing on Emily's smile, the way she used to look at him like he was home. On one of those nights, exhausted beyond reason, David typed a message meant for a contact he hadn't messaged in months, a draft of grief more than communication. The words were simple, painfully honest, and unfiltered by logic. He pressed send without looking, and when he did look, the name at the top of the screen was Rachel Morgan. Panic didn't scream, it froze him. His fingers went numb, his thoughts scattered. He considered sending another message to explain, to apologize, to laugh it off, but nothing felt right. He placed the phone face down and sat there, staring at the wall, waiting for something terrible to happen. Sleep never came that night. The next morning at work felt heavier than usual. David avoided eye contact, buried himself in spreadsheets, and flinched every time his phone buzzed. Rachel said nothing. No email, no comment, no sign that she had even seen the message. That silence somehow felt worse. By mid-afternoon, David had convinced himself he was about to lose everything. A single mistake, born of loneliness, was about to cost him his job, his stability, his daughter's safety. That evening, after picking Lily up and carrying her half-asleep body up the stairs, David noticed a car parked in his usual spot. A sleek, unfamiliar car. His chest tightened again. When he reached his door, he saw her standing there, Rachel Morgan, not in her usual tailored suit but in a simple coat, her hair loose, her expression softer than he had ever seen. The hallway light flickered, and for a moment David wondered if exhaustion had finally tipped him into hallucination. She didn't lecture him. She didn't mention professionalism or boundaries. She simply looked at him, really looked at him, as if she had finally seen the man behind the employee file. She stepped closer, lowering her voice, and whispered something that shifted the ground beneath his feet. It wasn't about the text being inappropriate. It wasn't about consequences. It was about understanding. About seeing pain. About how sometimes people reach out not because they are weak, but because they are human. Rachel had lost someone 2 years ago, a loss she had buried under ambition and long hours. The message David sent had cracked something open in her, something she thought she had sealed forever. She told him, in that quiet hallway, that missing someone never really goes away, and that it was okay to admit it. That whisper carried more compassion than David had felt in years, and without realizing it, tears streamed down his face, the kind that come when you finally feel safe enough to fall apart. Life didn't magically become perfect after that night. David didn't wake up suddenly healed. But something changed. Rachel became more than just a distant boss. She adjusted his schedule without making it a favor, encouraged him to work from home when Lily was sick, and slowly, gently, she entered their lives. She showed up to Lily's school play and clapped louder than anyone. She helped with bedtime stories and learned how to make pancakes shaped like animals. David watched Lily's laughter return, brighter and more confident, and felt something warm begin to grow where grief once dominated everything. Months passed, marked not by grand gestures but by quiet consistency. Trust built slowly, like bricks laid one by one. David learned that love didn't replace what was lost, it stood beside it, honoring the past while making room for the future. Rachel never tried to erase Emily's memory. She respected it, understood it, and that respect made all the difference. One evening, as David tucked Lily into bed, she asked him why he smiled more now. He didn't have an easy answer. How do you explain to a child that sometimes life sends help disguised as a mistake, that a misdirected message can become a lifeline? He kissed Lily's forehead and turned off the light, standing there for a moment longer than necessary, listening to her steady breathing. Later that night, David sat on the same kitchen chair where loneliness once ruled, but the air felt different. Warmer. Lived in. He thought about how close he had come to losing everything, and how instead, he had gained understanding, connection, and hope. All because he had been honest, even accidentally. If this story has touched your heart, if it reminded you that even in our weakest moments we are still worthy of compassion and love, please take a second to like this video, share it, and subscribe. Your engagement helps these stories reach people who might need them more than you realize. And before the ending, we ask you to comment below with one word that describes how this story made you feel. Your words matter, and they connect us all. David's life would never be free of pain, but it was no longer ruled by it. The text that once felt like the end of his world became the beginning of a quieter, stronger chapter, one built on empathy, patience, and the courage to keep going. And sometimes, late at night, when the apartment was still, he would think about how love doesn't always arrive the way you expect it to. Sometimes, it shows up at your door, leans in close, and whispers that you're not alone anymore.